2, 1. All right, fight fans, welcome to Caveman Corner with your host, Jeff.
Captain Caveman!
Dents, coming from the Caveman Studios.
How's it going, Ray? Happy St. Patty's Day.
Hey, happy St. Patty's Day to you too, man.
Awesome. Well, we're going to have a super special guest. I booked it today, so we'll get one of my personal heroes, Erik Herbert.
Captain America.
Captain America. Before we get too far into this, I just want to say this is not a paid political ad, even if it ends up sounding like one. Erik is one of the heroes that I've had in my life, and even though he's way younger than me, I totally respect him.
I feel like a father figure.
Yeah, he is like a father figure, kind of. And it's going to be probably a pretty pro Erik Herbert podcast.
And just to let people know, I never wrote it in my life, so.
And the last podcast that we did, you call Erik Herbert out for being tired and lazy, so we'll see how it goes.
Oh, boy.
Don't worry, he's a nice guy. Before we get Erik on, I just want you guys to take a minute and click the subscribe button on whatever you're watching. Every subscription that we get will really help us out so that we can continue to bring these awesome podcasts to you guys. All right, we have Erik Herbert on the line. We were going to do this yesterday, Erik. I just got you back today. Sounds like you're a pretty busy guy.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. It's good to be back. It's been a while, but yeah, I got busy with some work-related business, and it took me a day to catch up. But yeah, thanks for having me on.
First of all, you just came back into your professional career of fighting and had a pretty big win against a brown belt opponent. Ray actually said that you didn't look like yourself. Can you talk about that a little bit? I just got to bring this up because I have Ray here actually for a podcast with a law enforcement officer, so it's good to have him.
Is Ray on? Can
Yes.
Ray hear me?
I hear you.
Hey, how's it going, man?
All right.
So yeah, as far as that goes, I think Ray's right. I would agree that I don't think that fight was my best showing, my best performance. I think, just a quick recap, I was supposed to fight a guy that I had fought before at 185. Then they changed it, and I fought at 205. They told me the guy had like 14 fights, and I talked to him after the fight, and he had 27. And I saw, his record wasn't that good. It was like 7-9. But then when I looked him up, I saw 3 fights that he won that weren't on his record. And so I was like, oh, okay. And then when I talked to him, yeah, he lost 9 fights, but I think he won more like 15. So I think he's more like 15-9, and some of his losses were from 5 years ago. So anyway, he was a brown belt. He was big. He hit hard. He was a good counterpuncher, good southpaw. He had nothing to lose. I thought he was better than I thought he would be. I think he deserves a lot of credit. But at the same time, I don't think I really trained the way I should have. And as a coach, I always tell the guys to, you have to take it seriously. It's a brutal sport. And I think I kind of didn't really hold myself to that standard this time around because of the other things I had going on. So anyway, Ray, I think you're right. I think I was a little out of shape, and criticism well-deserved, yeah.
So what did you do the night before the fight, Erik?
I went to work. I worked the midnight shift. I'm a police officer. For those of you who don't know, I'm a police officer. And, yeah, I went into work. I didn't feel like I worked the midnight shift, so I went in at 11 o'clock, and I worked most of my shift. But then I took off at, I think I took off at like 3 in the morning and went home, went to bed at like 4 in the morning. But I didn't really want to take the day off and just sit at home and think about the fight. I just wanted to go and treat it like a normal day. And maybe in retrospect, I could have done that a little differently, I think.
I'm not trying to make excuses for you, but there's a lot of factors that went into that fight. And we talked about a lot of them on the podcast where me and Ray talked about the fights. People don't understand how busy you really are.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and, I'd like to preface it all with, my hat's off to Randy because he was very good. And, I think I could have done better, but maybe he feels that he could have too. So, he had to come in here on short notice. He had to come in here from New Mexico and bring his coaches and family up here. So it wasn't an easy task for him. So he was a good opponent. But, yeah, I do have a lot of stuff going on. And I think it's time for me to hang it up and move forward with the other things before Father Time catches up with me and puts me in an even worse spot. So yeah.
I don't know. It sounded like you still had some fire when we were sitting in the cage talking Monday, looking at another undefeated guy.
Yeah, there's a couple guys out there that when I look at and I see the hype behind them, and I'd fight them, for sure right now. But but I got to take it seriously. I got to lead it by example. And if the reality is I'm training 2 days a week, and I'm more focused on my political campaign, or my other full-time job, then my heart's really not in it to the extent that it should be. So I have to fight those urges and leave it up to the young guys now,
For sure. Are you planning to continue to coach after you win this election?
So, yeah, there's a couple things. I don't want to commit to anything. My plan right now is obviously set on winning the election that I definitely am committed to coaching the rest of 2019. But if I do win the election and I take office in January of 2020 at the start of the year, I might have to look at maybe, putting the coaching aside for a little bit. I've been coaching. I coached wrestling for 6 years at the high school level. I've been coaching MMA since I was 19, as like an assistant coach, and then now as full-time head coach and gym owner and all that other stuff. So, I've put a lot of time in as a coach. I don't regret 1 second of it, but at the same time, as you move on in life, and I'm sure everybody can kind of relate, sometimes other things pique your interest. And right now, I can honestly say that this political scene and political involvement is pretty much taken over my life. I'm obsessed with it, and I want to give it everything I got, and I don't want to half-ass it to the MMA athletes at Western New York MMA, because they're a very talented group and they deserve real full-time commitment. And so what I would say is I'll definitely going to coach 2019 and do everything I can to keep those guys winning. But depending on how the election goes, I might have to relook at some things.
Oh, wow. That was not the answer I expected. So that was just supposed to be a stock question and get you comfortable.
Yeah, it's just, there's so many, there's fundraisers, there's special meetings, there's when emergencies come up, the legislator gets called into session. I mean, sometimes you're there, it's a real job, man. You got a lot of real responsibilities here. And, and these political positions, if they're done by the right people, can really impact a lot of lives. And depending on how it goes, I want to keep my options open.
Just to be 100% clear to everyone that's listening, we never really said it. You're running for Niagara County Legislator, correct?
Yeah. Yep. I live in North Tonawanda, and we're building a house in North Tonawanda. And that district of where I live currently and where we're building our new house is about, I would say, 40% North Tonawanda and about 60% Niagara-Wheatfield, the town of Wheatfield. So, yes, I'm running for Niagara County Legislator in the 7th District, which is Wheatfield and NT.
I hate to even bring this up, but I want to, because I just read the other day on Facebook the post that your wife Diana wrote, who is amazing. You guys are like the perfect American couple. If anyone hasn't seen a picture of these two together, go open up your Facebook and search Erik Herbert for Niagara County office, and you'll see a picture of his family, a beautiful family. But anyways, I guess there was a reporter digging around your house site. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, well, thank you for that. But yeah, it's, I'm relatively new to politics, and which I'm very proud of. I don't want to be a 20-year guy who's been through the system and taken political job after political job and got all my friends and family jobs. And I think we need more fresh eyes and new perspectives on a lot of these issues and a lot of these political offices. So it's still very shocking to me what happens sometimes. I'm old school. I think, I believe in our political system. I believe in, our country. I love our country, served in the Marine Corps and blah, blah, blah. I take all that stuff to heart. And, to see and to get exposed to these shady political things that are happening every day right here in my city and right here in my county, it's disgusting, and there's really no other way to describe it. And so, I got contacted by a neighbor who I haven't even met yet because we're building the new house, right? So I've met a lot of those neighbors, but I haven't met every neighbor to where my house is being built. And there's a reporter walking up and down my street where my lot is, like it's all under construction, dirt everywhere, an excavator out there because they're putting in the foundation, the basement. And this reporter was digging around telling people that a career politician bought this lot. He's only building a home here so he can run for office. All this crazy nonsense to these people who have never even met me before. And it's really shocking. And there was more to it too. I mean, you're harassing my neighbors, and now I got to live there the next 30 years. Like, what kind of impression does that set? And so it's upsetting, and it creeped Diana, my wife, out. That there's like these, sleazeball reporters walking up and down the street, interviewing neighbors and talking bad things about our family. And so, it's, I guess it's just what it is these days, but we're going to keep fighting it, and we're going to make sure that our side of the story is always getting out there.
Can you just talk about the wetland situation too? It's not like you guys could just move into the house, because I don't want to totally defend you, and I want to put it in your own words, but I know you didn't buy the house just for running for office. I know that you had to deal with the wetland situation and everything to go along with that.
Yeah, so the long story short would be about a year and a half ago, maybe even longer now, my wife and I bought a lot to build a house on. We've been saving for years. We sold our house that we lived in, and we had, it's a very good housing market. So, yeah, we've been saving up money. We're going to build a house. It's a really exciting time for us. And that house, the lot where that house is being built on, the back portion of the lot, has wetlands. And so all the wetlands is like the state DEC says, like, you can't build on the wetlands, which is fine because it's at the back of the lot. It doesn't matter. It's nowhere near the house. It's not a big deal, but you need to go through a very extensive permit process to get New York State to let you build anywhere near them. Even though you're not building on them, just near them, you need to get these special permits. So we thought our house would be done and built months and months ago, even, last year. But instead what happened is because we wanted to do it the right way and not like force anything with the state, wetlands, DEC, we took our time to get the permits, and it set us back like at least 10 months, if not a year, on building this house. So yeah, now we're good to go. We did the right thing. We went through the process. We waited patiently. And so now we're building, and now everything's under contract and everything's good to go. It's just we got set back a long time. But in the meantime, we still live in the district that I'm running in. I still live here. I've lived in Niagara County for the last 10 years. I'm running for Niagara County legislator. I live in the district that I'm running in, but I'm just also building a house in the district. So when the house is done, I'm just going to move down the street into a new house. But I still currently live in that district.
So you're not an independently wealthy career politician?
I wish. No, man, I don't hold any political office. I'm a school board member, if you want to consider that political, which, some people do. I'm kind of in the middle on it. I see where people could think that, but it's really not as political as people might think. But it could be with the wrong people involved, I guess. But I don't have any political office. I don't have any political jobs. My family doesn't work for the county. I'm a cop that took the civil service exam. I scored high on the exam. I passed the physical. I interviewed. Like, nobody's handed me anything. Nobody's handed my family or friends anything. I don't have any ties to any of these politicians whatsoever. So, that's not me.
Do you think that this might have come around because you called out your opponent in the cage?
Yeah. So, hindsight's 20/20 a lot of times in life, right? And so, I'm not a big person that dwells on regret, but what I would say is I was definitely amped up in the moment after a big, professional cage fight in front of thousands of people. And what happened there was the news called me, I would say the week of the fight or somewhere close to that, and said, hey, your opponent has all these tax warrants against him. And basically he hasn't paid his taxes, like $40,000 worth of taxes. And so they put warrants out for him. And, I'm a cop. I arrest people that have warrants. My name's not on a warrant unless I'm arresting someone who has it, right? So, it's like when someone brings that up to me, and I had heard rumors. I kind of knew that there was some shady dealings with my opponent, but, I didn't know anything for sure. But the news wanted me to comment on it. And I actually did give them a comment, but they never printed it. Just saying that I was disappointed, and I think it's completely inappropriate to have tax warrants and then still be running for office. So once I knew it was like factually true, from the news, then I knew and I went with it. And so in the moment after the fight I won, I called him out and told him to pay his taxes in front of thousands of people. And, maybe not my best moment, but at the same time, I think people should know the truth. So be it,
I don't think anything will be wrong with it unless he actually didn't have a tax warrant. If he does, I mean, that's your job. You should go arrest him. That would be a good story.
Yeah. The way the IRS works, to my knowledge, that's a little section of the law that I'm not, super familiar with. We don't deal with it every day, but tax warrants are a little bit different. Like they can seize your property, and at some point you can maybe, be arrested, but there's a little bit more to it. So I don't really think it's like a warrant where I could just arrest them tomorrow. But either way, man, I mean, if we're trying to clean up the political system and by example, the way to do that is to not put people in office who have back taxes. And he made a comment of that he feels he's paid more than his fair share of taxes. And that's like, well, your fair share of taxes is all of your taxes. It's like you don't get to decide what the fair share is. The law does that. And so I take that stuff personally, So
It's not like you don't pay your taxes, right?
I hear that. Amen, man. Amen.
Oh, that was kind of like a question just to make sure that you are paying your taxes, but
no,
I believe 100% you do.
I'm good. I've paid everything. I don't like doing it, but I've done it. I've paid them all.
I wrote a response to your wife on Facebook, and I really believe this. I think that everyone is always calling for good people to run for office. And if someone that you believe is a good person is running for office, I really think we need to get out and support them. And that's one of the reasons why I want to have you on, and one of the reasons that I want to help volunteer with your campaign. So if anyone's listening, Erik's someone I believe 100% in. So I don't know if my word means anything to you, but if it does, help Erik out.
Listen, I never voted in my life, so if I lived in Niagara County, I would vote for Erik.
I appreciate that, man. Yeah, I think there's a couple of reasons why people don't vote, and I don't blame them. Sometimes I scratch my head and think, why would people vote if this is the product that we're putting out there sometimes? With all these problems and shady politicians. But at the end of the day, it's what we need to do is we need to support good people running, right? And my race, anybody's race, right? And we need to, we need to rally around good people who really want to change things and shake things up. And I think if we do that, we'll encourage people to vote more. I think we'll, get rid of some of that voter apathy that's out there if we get good candidates. I think we have bad candidates, nobody shows up to vote. If you get good candidates, exciting candidates, people who can move the needle, I think that's where you're really going to see change.
I like that. That sounds really good. You started out as a Republican, right? And now you're an independent. Can you talk about that a little bit?
I'd love to, because people, first off, where do you even start? Yeah, so I was in the Marine Corps from 2004 until 2008. And during that time, I worked for the Bush administration. And so I had a lot of Republican influence. And I think it's ridiculous, and I think it's one of the problems with politics, that people feel they have to be all in red team or all in blue team, Democrat, Republican. I think a lot of issues are really much more on a sliding scale, right? And so I was a Republican for a long time. I'm very upset and disheartened with the way our local Republicans, local meaning the city of North Tonawanda, the town of Wheatfield, Niagara County in general, I'm very upset with how those local Republicans have conducted themselves over the years. For example, former Senator George Mazier, plea deals, misdemeanors. Henry Lepasic, former GOP chairman, Republican chairman, plea deal, misdemeanor voter, voter, I don't know what would you call it, voting violations. You have people on the Young Republican Committee, which is like this group of, Republicans in Niagara County that have been arrested multiple times for, domestics and DWIs, and that as a police officer, I really have a hard time standing behind. So at the end of the day, I don't relate to the Republican Party and the way they're conducting themselves here in Niagara County. And so I switched. I switched from a Republican to an Independence Party member. And the reason I didn't switch to Democrat, although it's becoming more and more easy for me to do, and I'm really thinking about it, is because I don't agree with a lot of the socialism, identity politics stuff that's being pushed from the National Democratic Party. And so if the Democrats could get back to working more and representing more of the unions and the working class and getting back to, a working class Pratt, then I would be more on board with them. But until they do that, or until our local Republicans clean their act up, I'm going to be a proud independent, and I'm not going to be beholden to either one of those parties until they get their act together.
So the Independent Party didn't back you when you went to them, correct?
Nope, they did not. Correct, Jeff. The way the Independence Party works is it's made a board, and you interview in front of that board, and you request for their endorsement. And my opponent's a Republican. I'm an Independence Party member. I went in front of that board and I said, listen, if I win, I'm not going to caucus. Caucus would be like meet and kind of vote along with. I'm not going to caucus with Republicans or Democrats. I'm going to caucus as an independent. I'm going to make my own decisions. I'm going to ask for help. I'm going to ask for the insight of Democrats, of Republicans. At the end of the day, my plan was to be, loyal to myself and my group of, friends and colleagues, and I wasn't going to be beholden to one party. And I said I would caucus as an independent, meaning, that's what I said. But my opponent will be caucusing as a Republican. And so the Independence Party still chose to not endorse me or him and to let him run a primary against me. So now a Republican is running a primary against an Independence Party member to see who wins that line. And it's crooked politics at its finest. It's backwards. It's corrupt. It's one of the reasons why Jay Zellner and the Erie County Democratic Committee are very against, this fusion voting, which is kind of letting, what I just described happen. I'm an Independence Party member. I'm not beholden to either one of those parties. I believe I should have been the Independence Party candidate, but instead, because of all the shady politics that goes on, they wanted to let my opponent have a shot at winning that line too, because they know if he wins that line, he's got a better shot to beat me.
So for anyone that doesn't know politics, that would mean when you go to the ballot, the Republican would be in one spot, the Independent would be in another spot, and the Democrat would be in a third spot. And by running for the primary, that would knock the Independent Party off of that line to vote for. So you'd have to win the Republican side of the ticket without in the primary. Otherwise, you wouldn't be on the ticket at all.
Well,
does that explain it? Kind of, not really.
No, what it would be is just the quick version of a complicated system would be in June 25th. The voters will have the chance to vote in a primary. And the only people who can vote in the Independence Party primary are the voters in my district. So there's about 580 of them. So 580 registered Independence Party members will be able to come out and vote in June for who do they want to be on that line in the November general election. So just to recap real quick, all of the Independence Party members will come out in June to vote whether they want me or my opponent to represent them in the general election in November. Now, if my opponent gets more independence votes in that June primary, then his name will be on the line in November. Even though he's not an independent, he's a Republican. But when you go to vote in November, you'll see Republican, my opponent's name, and then you'll see independent, and then my opponent's name. So people will be tricked into thinking they're voting for an independent when they vote in November because his name's on the line, when really they're voting for a Republican.
Right. Erik said it a lot better. That's what I meant, but Erik explained it very, very good. You can tell why he's in politics and I'm in on a talk show.
Yeah. Well, no, you were good. It's just, it's a confusing system. I have to say it in my head, sometimes over and over, so like I can explain it at least decently because, people are busy. I went door to door today for just a couple hours. Today was a quick day. People went home those St. Patrick's Day, but met 10 or 15 people, and you can't. People don't have time to understand all this stuff. And they shouldn't have to. It should be much, much easier. And it could be, but the corruption is so bad, especially here in Niagara County, that, the system is so rigged and complicated that, it's difficult to follow. So kind of my job is to give the privilege of people so they can be informed without having to, sacrifice a ton of time and energy.
I gotcha. We're just having a little bit of phone static, so I'm trying to clean it up. I was listening.
It's okay on my end. Oh, okay.
All right. I have a good friend that listens to this podcast, Dr. Kroll. He's actually in your district. So he was wondering what your thoughts are on fixing up Niagara Falls.
Yeah, so I'm getting a really good question, and it's something that I wouldn't say unprepared for, but I was surprised by the amount of people who are wanting to know about Niagara Falls, even though I represent NT and Wheatfield. So what I thought would happen is people would only really care about NT and Wheatfield for the most part. But what I'm finding is a lot of people are very concerned about Niagara Falls. Don't get me wrong, so am I. But I just didn't think it would be as much of a flustered issue in the other towns and cities as it is. But so Niagara Falls, the legislator, all the members of the legislature, when there's a problem in Niagara Falls, it affects all of us. We have to vote in supporting and helping all of the different towns and cities in Niagara County. Niagara Falls is a mess. There's no secret to it. There's no great answer to how to fix it because there's so many things that need to happen. Obviously, the first thing that I think needs to happen is you need to bring business into Niagara Falls to increase the tax rolls, right? You need to spend money on the areas. First off, let's back up. You need to figure out what's going on with the casino, right? The casino deal has the potential to really cripple that city because of where that money is or isn't going. And whoever is going to be in charge of Niagara Falls, because the mayor is up for election this year and the council members as well, they need to figure out this casino deal. They need to get a long-term deal in place with the casino. And we need to make sure that that money is supporting Niagara Falls and it's not, like it is now and all this arbitration and everything else. So, but then, we need to develop Niagara Falls. Business needs to come in. It is a tourist city, but it's also a very big factory and industry city. And we need to make sure that, we're supporting businesses coming in so we can, get the jobs in there and also so we can increase the tax roll so Niagara Falls can stand a little bit more on its own 2 feet instead of always relying on casino cash. And those are just two things, right? I mean, there's some union issues, right, between the firefighters, the police officers, and the council. We need to make sure that we're supporting first responders, but also in a way that the taxpayers can, bear the burden of, right? And so there's a lot, and whoever is on the council for Niagara Falls and whoever wins the mayoral election for Niagara Falls, you got to work it out for them. But from a legislative perspective, I would definitely be for helping everything that we could and in that way that we can, because let's face it, if Niagara Falls does well, Niagara County does well. And so we need to make sure that our biggest tourist attraction and one of the biggest wonders of the world is being supported so we can all benefit in Niagara County.
I agree. That's a great statement that you're saying. You talked about the unions a little bit. As a union guy myself, I'm a steward for the local 277. Can you talk about your support for the unions?
Yeah, so this is like everything else in in the world, right? Everything in the world can be taken to an extreme, right? And so it's my opinion that unions are, for the most part, incredibly important and needed, and I support unions 90% of the time. But what we need to make sure of is that just because we have strong unions, we need to make sure that, we're keeping things reasonable. Like, there's some unions out there, and I'm not talking, anybody specifically, but, I've always kind of been against signing long-term union contracts. Like, I've always kind of been like 3 and 5 year union contracts for the max. And I know a lot of union members don't always like to hear that. But anytime you go about, 5 and 7 and 10 year union deals, and they do exist out there and many different, depending on the position. We don't know what the health and the financial stability of our cities is going to be like, 10 years down the road all the time. And so what I think we need to do with the unions is, first and foremost, understand that they are needed and that they are important and that they are what supports most of the working class. And it's also what keeps work environments safe for those workers, such as firefighters, first responders, and, steam fitters, iron workers. Like, those are dangerous jobs, and we need those unions in place to make sure that they have the safety and make sure that they have all the requirements that they need to do their job. But we also need to remember that we need to keep things in perspective, and we can't, get too carried away with, one side or the other when we do these contracts.
I agree. So you don't think people should get free cosmetic surgery?
Yeah. I'm sure there's people who, that get that, probably won't like me saying it, but no, the healthcare industry has changed. I'm a union worker. Do I believe in free healthcare? No, I believe that, I'm talking from a union perspective, and I paid 25% of my healthcare. You know what I mean? That's reasonable, right? I mean, workers have paid 0% in the past, but times have changed. Healthcare is skyrocketing, and it's unreasonable for me to think that a city can, or a school district, or a town, or a county legislator, or whatever, can bear the burden of all the healthcare costs as they shoot through the roof each year. So, no, I do understand that. Although it's in a perfect world, maybe healthcare could be free for unions. At this point in time, it's probably reasonable to, start contributing on some level, right? And some people might not want to hear that, but, we got to think about the overall picture moving forward. So, yes, I'm not for all the cosmetic stuff and all that stuff. I mean, I think we need to be a little bit more reasonable and on some of these things.
I think that's one of the things that I respect about you so much, is that you're a pretty level-headed guy on just about every issue that we ever talked about. I think that that's really what politicians need to be. I think everyone's so far right, so far left. The right place is in the middle, just like you said with the Independence Party, where you can kind of go each way on an issue and find the right answer.
Yeah, no, I really agree with that. I mean, I don't know if very far right, very, very conservative people would vote for me, and I don't know if very, very far left, crazy liberal-minded people would vote for me. I don't know, but the reality is that that's like 10%. If it's kind of arbitrary, but that number. But that's not the majority of the people. The majority of the people are on that sliding scale. In the middle of the extreme left. I've been to hundreds of doors in the last month or so, and there's no examples of people who are so far conservative or so far liberal that you can't find ground with almost everybody that's out there, and that just goes to show to me that most people are in the middle on some of these issues, and we have to have representatives who are going to be the voice for the people in the middle.
And I think we just need to get your voice out there too. I remember the time we were cutting weight together in the sauna, and we're having pretty much a conversation just like this about politics, and all the people in the sauna wanted to hear us talk more when we were getting out.
Yeah. Well, I've never shied away from trying to take a stance and speak my mind. It's like there's a lot of politicians, and not even politicians, just people in general who, might answer some of these questions differently, might, walk the line more pro or con on a lot of the issues that we're talking about. But these are just the things that I feel, and this is what I think. This is what I've, thought a lot about on a lot of these issues. For example, budgeting and our education as a school board member and first responders and, unions. And, this is where I stand as a 33-year-old in my experience. Now, could I change my mind on some issues as I get older? Yeah, of course I could, right? And I would be more concerned about a candidate who was unwilling to change his mind as he gets more educated, or she gets more educated, or he experiences new things and still doesn't change their mind. Like, that would be really scary to me, to have someone in office who, no matter what evidence you put in front of them, is so blinded by, one thought or one ideology that they can never bend their flex or, bend their flex on an issue. I mean, we need people. That whole term of flip-flopping and fence-sitting, that term has always driven me nuts, because as a 32-year-old, if I have the same views as when I'm a 22-year-old or a 62-year-old, that means I haven't done much living, and I haven't done much in terms of trying to, get further education and things like that. So I think we need to evolve, and we need to keep an open mind and, kind of go from there.
I like that. That thought is echoed so much with NLX today, especially if you're listening to the Joe Rogan podcast or Jordan Peterson, or even though people start calling these people alt-right, they're pretty liberal and they're pretty much in the middle on a lot of stuff. I like the thoughts that you're echoing.
Yeah, I think a little bit there, but I heard you mention Peterson and Rogan. And of course, for anybody who doesn't know, those are great podcasts to listen to. And there's one that literally I would say, without trying to get too dramatic, changed my life. And that's a 4-part series on a debate between Sam Harris and Jordan Peterson, which is 4 2-hour debates on religion and everything that goes into religion and ethics and morals and even politics. And it is one of the most interesting things I've ever heard. So anybody who wants to listen to that, it's definitely kind of most fun. But, another thing I know is Jordan Peterson talks about you need liberal and conservative-minded people to make the world go forward. You need liberal-minded people and democratic-minded people, Democratic Party people, to stick up for the less fortunate and to stick up for, the dispossessed and different things like that. And then you also need conservative-minded people who can also stick up for that whole section of society too. So as much as we want to vilify each other, liberals and Democrats want to be enemies, the reality is that if they had each other, neither one of them they would both cease to exist. And so you need Democrats, you need liberals, and you need conservatives to be constantly fighting issues out. But then when you're done fighting, you need compromise and you need to move forward. And hopefully that's where someone like me comes in, where I see both points of view. Let's find a reasonable solution and let's move the ball forward instead of constantly fighting with each other.
I think you do that perfectly. I don't think there's a better example than your fight. I mean, the guy came in wearing a Trump hat. You came out wearing a Democrat blue. At the end of the fight, you switched outfits. He went home wearing your Vote Herbert shirt, and you wore his shirt, man. You guys went in a cage and you debated, and you came out and won the debate, and he followed your ideas home.
Yeah. That was kind of like a cool, when I think about it, symbolic thing. I'm wearing the blue, he's wearing the red, he's got the Trump hat, and it was none of it was planned. It was just what it was. And I even asked him about it. I said, "Did you know about me running for office?" He's like, "No, I never looked you up. I just he's like, I love what he's doing for the country, and I don't necessarily have all those same views, but you know what? He was a good guy, and credit to Randy for doing that. But it was kind of interesting how that all worked out.
Yeah, it's like a microcosm of your life, man. It's really good. It'd be great for the campaign.
Yeah, right.
All right, man. Well, I thank you very much for your time. We're gonna get out of here. Vote Herbert. # Vote Herbert all over the place.
Yeah, we gotta spread the news around.
Yeah, if I could just say just one more quick thing. I'm having a fundraiser on the 27th, next 2 weeks from now or a week and a half from now. I'm an NT. It's on my Facebook page. If anybody wants to come out and support, I appreciate it. And if anybody could just kind of share and like some of the posts and help spread the word. And if you know anybody in NT or if you know anybody in the town of Wheatfield I really appreciate any support I could get and asking people to vote for me and helping get my message out there. So, Jeff and Ray, thanks for having me. You guys, I always appreciate the time with you guys, and thanks a lot.
Oh, before we let you get out of here, after your plug, we're going to have to follow up with a question about the plug. Where is the fundraiser at, and how much are tickets?
Yeah, sure. So the tickets are $25 a person or $40 a couple. It includes food and dessert and drinks. And it's at Gratwick Hose Fire Company, so Gratwick Fire Hall, which is in North Tonawanda off of Ward Road. I believe it's 110 Ward Road in North Tonawanda. And you can always show up at the door and get a ticket, or you can go to my website, erikherbert.com, and just click the donate button, and you can donate money to the campaign that way. You could also donate money for tickets, and then we'll have a printout at the door of anybody who bought tickets, so then you can just stand at the door. But yeah, if you want to donate anything to the campaign, $5, $10, whatever, every little bit helps, and you can just do that at erikherbert.com.
Awesome, man. Thank you very much for your time. You're not going to be a career politician just charging like $25, though. You got to get a couple $100 a head.
Yeah, no, if anybody wants to drop $1 million in there, feel free.
All right, thanks for your time, Erik.
All right, guys, take care.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Erik the Bull Herbert.
The Bull.
Yeah, that was kind of interesting. We were having a little bit of phone difficulties here, so Ray had to hold the phone up by his face, and I was pretty much sitting in his lap for like the last 10 minutes of the podcast.
Yeah, that was awkward.
It was a little awkward. Ray was getting excited, and he was like, "Man, get off the phone! Stop!" When I went to ask him the last question about the fundraiser, you're like, you just gave me the look, like, "Dude, just move."
You was in my face.
Yeah, but Erik's a hell of a guy.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
I say a lot about a lot of people, but there's not too many people I put a lot of extra time into helping, and Erik's one of them.
You know what? I really don't donate money political, but I'm gonna do it this year for Erik.
I'm gonna do it for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm probably not gonna go, but I'm gonna get 2 tickets, and I'll probably put a donation to his fund.
Yeah, I'll probably be working that night, so I'm gonna donate some money though.
We should donate some money as Caveman's Corner, actually.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I'll donate it, and then we'll just say it's from Caveman's Corner.
Wait, no, I'm gonna donate, Caveman.
All right.
Yeah, I want to donate.
Yeah, that's what you say on the mic, and then when it gets off, you're like, psh. I mean, for real this time.
I'm serious though. No, I'm gonna donate.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
Yep.
You ready to play the music?
Yep.
All right, let's get out of here.
Oh, Mark Coleman sent me a message.
What? Play the music.
All right, Republicans and Democrats, this is Caveman Corner. We are out of here.
Yeah, that sucks that the phone was buzzing in and out. I'll
Yeah,
clean it up a little bit.
You know what? It's my phone. I gotta get a new phone.
Yeah. It's better than my phone. My phone's just as bad.
No, but like the signal on my phone got terrible.
Yeah.
And
Who do you use?
I got T-Mobile.
I get Sprint, and they're pretty crappy too. We gotta get Erik Herbert to fix the phone signal. Except we're not in Niagara County.
Oh, damn.
If we're in Niagara County, Erik Herbert will fix your phone signal.
You know what? I'm gonna move to Niagara County. I'm gonna pack my bags. I'm moving out there.